for some reason couldn't get that in our parade here, but I really appreciate Secretary Kobach to show up. So I'm going to let him go ahead and speak to us, even though it's not 1 o'clock, because he needs to keep moving. So Secretary Kobach, welcome to Montgomery County. We're looking forward to you being governor. This feels a little dangerous. I don't know. Did you have this weight tested? All right. Okay. Well,
Hey, that's a pretty low deer stand.
yeah, it is a low deer stand, but I think we can make it work. Hey, thank you everyone for what you're doing for getting our team across the line. For those of you who don't know, we are on day 3 of a statewide tour. We were in Northwest Kansas on day 1, Southwest Kansas on day 2. Now we're here in the rest of Southeast Kansas on day 3. As Virgil mentioned, I am flying to hit the Arkalala Parade and then come back and join the tour in Pittsburgh. So we're leaving no stone unturned looking for votes. And just to give you a sense of what this is like, and it's similar for what's going on in Steve's race, or what's going on in the other statewide races. We have to rack up votes where we can. In a non-presidential year, what happens is 75% of Kansas, about 70% of Kansas shows up to the polls because, hey, it's a presidential race, and they may not have decided all the races, but they're showing up and a lot of undecided people show up. That's not what happens in a non-presidential year. What happens in a non-presidential year is the electorate is much smaller, and it's just about, do more Democrats turn out or more Republicans turn out? And so the work you are doing by making phone calls, by knocking on doors, is so critical, because I guarantee you right now as we speak, there are dozens, maybe even, I doubt hundreds, there are dozens of Democrats walking door to door in the belly of the beast, Lawrence, Kansas, the People's Republic of Douglas County, and they're trying to get the Democrats to vote. That is exactly what they're doing. And they've got their little apps on their phones, and they are trying to get as many Democrats as they can. They're doing the same thing in northern Johnson County. They're doing the same thing in Wyandotte County. And that's why we're on our home turf here in Montgomery County. This is where we rack up the numbers. That's why I was out in western Kansas. We are racking up numbers in western Kansas. For the congressional races, obviously you don't have the whole state to work with, but it's all about getting our people out. So understand that when you make those phone calls or you knock on those doors, we're running up the score on our home territory here, because the other guys are running up the numbers in their territory, and it could be very, very close. We might have another 343 vote landslide like we did in the primary. And if it is that close, I will have to thank each and every one of you who's been on the telephone, because you pick up, you spend an hour on the phone, you feel like maybe you picked up 10 votes for us, or however many votes. That could be the difference right there. It's going to be super close. The consequences of these races are super significant. I'll let Steve talk about what's at the federal level. But at the state level, you guys know this, especially those of you who live in the Independence area. You go across the line to Oklahoma, you've got lower income taxes, lower sales taxes, lower taxes on your fuel. Why would people spend their money on the Kansas side of the line? Why would people build their business on the Kansas side of the line when everything's less tax on Oklahoma? We have got to make ourselves competitive, and that's why we're pushing a tax-cutting message. If Laura Kelly gets elected, there will be no tax cuts. She might allow a sales tax cut on food only, but sales taxes on everything else, she wants them to be higher. She wants to see you voted last time to make those 6.85%. So we have got to get our state moving again. Economically, we're 46th in the country in economic growth. All of the states around us are growing at the middle of the pack, or the faster end of the pack. But we're at the bottom of the pack with states like Louisiana, like Connecticut, and it's because of our high taxes. The other issue that I'll talk about, and I know I don't have to persuade you guys, but I just want to help you understand how important this race is life. The Supreme Court of Kansas is about to rule that there is an unwritten right to an abortion in the state constitution. And what that means is they will strike down our dismemberment abortion ban. But it means that if you have a state constitutional right, that's freestanding. And what the Supreme Court of the United States does, even if they struck down Roe v. Wade, it wouldn't help us, because the abortionists in Kansas would say, oh, we have a state constitutional right, and we will bring our cases under the state constitution only. You can't appeal the Kansas Supreme Court to the U.S. Supreme Court if they do that. They're playing a very clever game, and their clever game is going to put them way ahead as soon as the state Supreme Court rules. And at that point, the ACLU will go into district courts all across Kansas and will say, the Supreme Court of Kansas just recognized this right. Every pro-life law on the books, every single one, is unconstitutional under the Kansas Constitution. they will go into court and they will win, and they will get a preliminary injunction, and our entire pro-life statutes are going to be swept aside within a period of about 6 months after that Supreme Court decision. At that point, the only way we build Kansas back as a pro-life state is first we pass a constitutional amendment, which we can do without a Republican governor, because that will, it's 2/3 of both houses of the legislature, then you get a popular vote, you get 50% plus 1, you win. But then we have to repass all of our statutes again. And if we don't have a Republican governor, we won't get them signed. So the consequences of those phone calls you are making are huge. I feel the weight on my shoulders for the unborn. If I don't win, then they don't win. And there will be human life consequences if we don't win this thing. So that's why I am just going 90 miles an hour trying to make sure we win this thing. And I want you guys to understand that I am cheering for you when you knock on those doors, when you call your friends, when you do whatever you do, but there are a whole lot of other people who are cheering for us and need us to win. And there are people who can't cheer, who need to be born, who this will have consequences for. So just understand there's a big, 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 big struggle here. And what you're doing is so important. All right, with that said, let me introduce two of my 5 daughters. Molly here, age 9. Molly managed to sneak in a Kobach t-shirt on the vehicle, so that was good. And Lily here, whose birthday is today, she just turned 15. Lily brought her little dog too, and that got a lot of cheers as well. So I've got my crack campaign team here with me. Well, we're gonna get on a plane, fly to Ark City, and you guys, thank you, and thank you again for what you are doing. We're gonna win this thing, but you guys are gonna win it for us because we need the numbers here on our home territory. Thank you, appreciate it.